Welcome back, Gale Force, and thank you for attending my presentation about Kieran, a unit from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, and first let's talk about his traits. In Path of Radiance, Kieran joins you in Chapter 11 provided the cell door he was in the previous chapter was opened, and he survived the chapter. His bases are somewhat middle of the road, but he possesses decent growths with a focus on strength and skill, as well as decent speed and defense. His default skill is Gamble, which will rarely, if ever, come into play. Kieran has a somewhat rocky start, with his bases being what they are and the high weight of axes. He also joins in a chapter where combat is somewhat limited, and the two chapters immediately following it are loaded with high speed Raven Lagoos, which pose a lot of trouble for him. Even so, Kieran is well worth the effort it takes to get him going thanks to the advantage axes have in this game, as well as his ability to rescue units and move after attacking. Gamble does absolutely nothing for him and should probably be replaced with other skills as soon as possible. Kieran can actually make great use of an occult scroll, as he'll likely see a lot of combat as a mounted unit, and Soul can allow him to keep going even in otherwise difficult situations. In Radiant Dawn, Kieran first joins in Part 2, Chapter 3, working under Joffrey. Like all of the other Crimean Knights, his availability is fairly limited, having only a handful of chapters where he is available prior to Part 4. Nonetheless, his bases have a pretty decent spread for the time in which he first appears, and he retains decent growths with a focus on strength and defense. Kieran is, frankly, not worth using in Radiant Dawn beyond the chapters where he is required. Titania and Oscar have far greater availability through all of Part 3, and will inevitably become better than him by the time he is available to be picked up and used again. When raised, he will become the most physically bulky of the potential gold and silver knights your army can have. But this doesn't do very much for him, as the late game is littered with magic that can cause him huge issues. Kieran's a shadow of his former self in Radiant Dawn, and it's a huge shame considering how great he can be in Path of Radiance. In conclusion, Kieran is a fantastic unit who takes a little bit of elbow grease to get moving in Path of Radiance, and an unfortunately pretty bad unit in Radiant Dawn. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and click the bell if you'd like to get notified when I post a new video. A special thank you to patrons 60 Sweep and Gorilla Danny for subscribing at the Paladin tier, and Average Stat Pat and Kiosk Griffin for subscribing at the Great Lord tier. If you would like to have a say in which unit should receive a PowerPoint next, check out my Patreon. For just $1 a month, patrons will get to vote on a specific unit to gain a PowerPoint next, as well as get to see videos up to 2 weeks early and access to the community Discord. Links will be in the description down below, and have a great rest of your day.